So I would like you to be introduced to Colleen's costume, which is very, very fancy. She has feathers. She has a witchy hat. Who are you, dear?
I am Fancy Nancy witch costume with my fancy poisonous spider ring and my fancy blingy spider necklace. And who are you?
Well, I'm not sure. I think I'm across either between Cruella DeVille or Phyllis Diller in her heyday. So I guess I'm going to call myself Villa Diller.
Villadella.
It's like vanilla wafer, the vanilla wafer thingies. Anyway, so it's amazing what kind of costume you can come up with in 2 seconds.
All right, it's a fabulous. I love it, Villadilla. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna.
Okay, so now you guys know who we are going to talk about double, toil and trouble,
fire, burn, and cauldron.
Cauldron bubble. We're going to have you put a spell on your clients. That person over there is, introduce yourself, darling.
Oh, me? Oh, it's my turn? I am Colleen, who's drowning in this witch's hat. I am Colleen with Monkeys and Hats Digital Marketing Agency, and we build websites and mobile apps. And you are?
Kate Holmes, and I am the web host at Too Good to Be Through, which is tgtbt.com, which is the premier site for professional resellers. So we're going to be cooking up a stew, a slumgullion, something or other in this big witch's cauldron we have for you. And we're going to talk about 3 different ingredients. The first ingredient that a witch would do, any self-respecting witch would throw into her cauldron, would be
Eye of Newt.
Eye of Newt. Wonderful, wonderful things that fill their eyes with things that your customers could buy. So how do you do that? There's a couple of ways to use the Eye of Newt to cast a spell on people and to get them to open their wallets to you. Colleen, you want to go first?
Wow, my first ingredient for the Eye of Newt would be to do these amazing displays in your store and capture them right in your spell with vignette types of displays. And every display should have at least 3 to 5 items on it. Definitely no less than 3, but you definitely can get 5 items because a display is a silent salesperson. So why not sell more? Kate? Oh, excuse me, Villadilla.
Villadilla. The reason that Colleen says 3 or 5 items, it's a human trait, I guess, to like odd numbers rather than even numbers. So that 3 to 5 is something to pay attention to. You can go to 7, you can go to 11 for all I care, but the vignette idea, the idea of showing a lifestyle, of telling a story with your in-shop displays. You wouldn't take a leather armchair and put a boa on it. You would probably stack it up with murder mysteries and maybe a spooky looking lamp. Same thing if you had a kitchen table, you wouldn't put your finest china on it. You would put something that would tell a story of a gathering in a kitchen. And if you're doing clothing, of course, you're going to tell a story that not only could be signed if you were really gung-ho about it, you could put a sign up saying, you know, what to wear to the concert, or I'll meet you in the park, or see you Saturday at noon, talking about what that outfit looks like. So filling their eyes with things that they can buy is so important. Don't just plop something up there. Give it some thought. Another way, of course, of filling their eyes with something to buy would be filling their eyes electronically on their devices. And Colleen, you're the expert in electronic communication. So what is going to catch people's eyes when they scroll through their Facebook feed? Something that'll stop them and make them really take a look at what you've posted.
First of all, shout outs to Jana and Judy. Thank you for joining us today. I can't wait to see what costumes you're going to wear tomorrow to work. I'm sure it's going to be very cool. And the great thing about social media is you have this opportunity to be really, really, really creative with your photography, creative with graphics. And so that's really the key, is to be creative and engaging and really mix up your feed with not just items that you're selling, but items that include posts about being engaging, posts about being educational, posts about inspiration. Oh, my fancy Nancy husband just walked in and didn't realize I was wearing this costume today.
Is he wearing a costume?
No, he's not wearing a costume. Hi, Vina. Vina's joining us today too. So yeah, you really, and I know it's just like post items, and sell, 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 sell. And I'm all for that. Ride that wave. So many of you are just raking in the dough off of social media, but please remember this is a long-term marketing tool. So really build your audiences by engaging them with other kinds of inspirational content. What makes you stop and feel inspired? What's educational? Do educational videos. How do you spot a fake bag? How do you look at really nice furniture? How do you keep good furniture? Should you use pledge? Should you not use pledge? These are the kinds of things you should be filling up your feed with.
And of course, since we're talking about catching their eye, the eye of newt, have I shown you my eye of newt? Here's my eye of newt. Pretty disgusting, huh? Wow. Since we're talking about catching their eyes, do you think that perhaps when they choose a picture to go with their informational post, should it be primary colors? Should it be black and white to break all of the colors that are in Facebook? Do you have some idea of what would actually be a good graphic to go with things like this?
So first of all, it's all dependent upon your branding. If you happen to know what your brand is, then you'll know, like if you know your brand archetype, your primary and your secondary archetype, then you'll know what kind of photography. Like some brands should do more black and white photography and then spruce up with a little bit of color. Some brands need to do more soft pastel, romantic photos. And then some brands, need to go a little off the charts and be funny and err to the side of life's funny bone. So a lot of it depends on your branding. So it's really hard to say like across the board what you should do. If your branding is more black and white, then that's what you should do. Did you have something to say?
No, I think that's a great idea because some people, for instance, are kind of urban grungy, and for them to put on a picture, that's kind of a Mother's Day bunch of roses doesn't suit their branding. You want people, as they're going through their feed or as they're looking on your website or as they're reading your blog, to that graphic, that picture, that illustration, that image needs to reinforce the attributes that you are putting out there as part of your business. So stop and think about if you've got a girl in your store who's modeling a dress and you want to put her somewhere to take a picture of her. Should she be against a concrete block wall? Should she be in amongst the flowers in the garden?
That one. Flowers in the garden, that one. So that's a great point. So the action shots, especially on Instagram, action shots get way, way, way more likes and engagement. So you always want to show some kind of like action in your photos when you're taking them. Like instead of just taking a photo straight on of an item, if you go through the Instagram feed and you see how a girl is kind of like sitting off to the side, or maybe they're having a cup of coffee or holding a soda or something in their hands and then there's a photo, like a side shot photo. Those are the best kinds of photography and photo styles to take. So that I can tell you across the board is more of those like action shots on Instagram.
So it's still a still photograph, but it looks like you've interrupted an activity of some sort.
Yes, yeah. So it's almost like you can see like that's not a picture of a sweater, it's a picture of a girl having coffee wearing a great sweater, like that.
And again, we're telling a story, we're setting a vignette. You want your customer or your potential customer or your audience to see the picture of that girl drinking a cup of coffee sitting at a cafe table. You want the person who's looking at it to visualize themselves in that sweater. And that means they would go to a cafe and they would have a cup of coffee. And they might even have a Marvel comics looking guy sitting across from them if they bought that sweater from you. It's all about aspiration and inspiration. So when you're trying to catch people's eyes, do something that tells a story. And as Colleen said, tell the story that your brand tells.
Absolutely. Yep. All right. So the next ingredient in our cauldron is going to be, I lost my recipe. What's the next ingredient?
It's tongue of dog.
Tongue of dog. How could I forget tongue of
And
dog?
we're talking metaphorically now. Melissa, don't get upset. We didn't harm any dogs filming this video.
No
Tongue
dogs
of dog.
in the making of this video.
Tongue of dog refers to actually talking to people, not only talking to people in your shop, but talking to people online, writing things in your blog, on your website, and so on. Stop and think again about your branding when you're talking about tongue of dog. Would you talk like a lawyer to somebody in your store? Of course not. So what are some key things to avoid or to use, Colleen, when we're trying to get that whole branding concept into not only what we write, but what we say?
So again, it goes back to really about if you think about your brand and think of your brand as a personality, like if you actually think of your brand as a person and pretend that that person's name is the name of your store, what kind of personality do they have? How do they dress? How do they talk? What do they do? And so kind of get that image in your head and then think about how would they talk. And if you think how Harley Davidson talks in their ads versus how Disney talks in their ads or Coca-Cola talks in their ads, and kind of think about those kinds of brands and how the differences are in their communication, that will kind of give you a better idea of like, wow, how can we talk that is acceptable to our target market? Because some people can totally get away with slang. You can say, hey y'all, and how y'all doing? See, like that's not my brand. I can't even speak those words. But if some people can totally do slang, some people can get away with cussing in their brand and it's completely acceptable. Whereas other brands, it's just totally not acceptable. So again, it just depends on how your brand is and how your target market is and what feels right. Like when you're writing verbiage for posts or writing verbiage for signage, what feels right to you and what feels right to your customers? Like how are they going to respond to that verbiage?
That's a really interesting point, that you can get away with slang, you can get away with local euphemisms, perhaps, like kiss ma grits, kind of a thing, which makes sense for some people and doesn't make sense for other people. The one thing that I really do want to emphasize when you're talking, when you're writing, when you're doing anything, communicating with your clientele, with your customers, with your suppliers, be sure not to use jargon. Do not use trade speak. Do not use things that perhaps you use between yourself and your staffers. I sent a note to Colleen today earlier saying we should talk about how they talk about NTYs. Well, Colleen had to stop and think about what NTY was, which, if you have worked with me or read anything that I write, NTY is a no thank you. In other words, a item you're not going to accept. But to say NTY is really, really jargon, and you don't want to do that to people because you don't want to confuse people. If you're talking to them and they have to stop and think about what you're saying, or if they get annoyed that you're saying something that they don't understand, it'll just turn into a fiasco. I had a story once where a woman came into the store to pick up her no thank yous or NTYs. And the salesperson went and got the items, and pinned on the front of the couple of items they did not take was PU 1030. And the woman took the items and she went home.
You.
And later on, she called the manager or the owner of the shop and said, I am terribly offended. Why did you tell me my clothes smelled? You're telling me my clothes smell and you're telling me in such a horrible manner? No. It was pick up. PU 1030. The lady will pick them up. So that's an example of jargon gone bad.
I got another one. My favorite one is FU.
FU? What does that stand for?
Follow up. It stands for follow up.
Follow up. Okay.
What's the rest of you thinking?
So I got to do some FUs today. I'm going to get on the phone and do some FUs.
And then the last little bit I'd like to share about the tongue of dog is that very often you have to put limits on things. And this is coming up a lot right now. We're doing giveaways. It's the holidays. It's Thanksgiving. We're doing promotions for extra loyalty points or different things like that. And we have to put tiny little writing in that says, okay, limit, 5 per customer or limit 100 points per customer. And, try really hard to find a nice way to deliver that kind of message. And one of the things we did is that we put like no limit to giving, limit 100 points per customer. So we want people to know like, hey, there is no limit for giving. We're doing we're doing a food drive and a toy drive. And if you bring in food and toys, you get loyalty points for doing that. We want to let people know that there is no limit to giving. We're going to limit each customer to a maximum of 100 points during the holiday months that we're doing that. But just like finding a nice way to say that kind of stuff, because no one likes to, you don't have to be negative. No one likes to hear that kind of negative type of wording. I saw some verbiage in a store one time, and oh my gosh, I hope these people aren't watching. I saw this verbiage and it was very harshly worded about all the effects of buying counterfeits. And it was a wonderful store, and they were talking about like when you buy counterfeit, there's like, child labor and, slave labor and all, slave trafficking and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, I think we need to reword this. I think we need to find a better way to say it. But it was like this great store and had this really harsh, but I appreciated their message. But I was just like, oh my gosh, wow. So how you say it?
There's always a way to say something positively, like Colleen said. For instance, instead of saying no food or drink on your front door, you could say, please enjoy your refreshments before you enter. Or
yes,
or
you
can say, please, something like that.
Another
really,
don't bring any in the store. And my favorite one, if you need to put a sign up that says no entry, one of my favorite ones that I recently was helping somebody out with is I said, just put up a sign that says, if you enter, you're responsible for cleaning everything in here.
That's cute. Another thing that I'd like to point out, when you're doing coupons or something that is a time expiration date, you should never say coupon expires November 15, 2018. The positive way of saying that is, this coupon is valid until November 15, 2018. So again, it's just turning it around, making it positive rather than negative. And sometimes it's hard to actually see the negative in your own signage. So when you're out and about, be sure to look at other people's signs and, pay attention to your gut reaction. No entry. Well, why not? I want to go in there. So pay attention when you're out and about. And that brings us to the third ingredient in our witch's cauldron of tips for you this day. And that is lizard's leg and owlet's wing.
And what is lizard's leg and owlet's wing?
They are methods of locomotion. And when you leave your store, you need to do all sorts of things. When you travel away from your store on your lizard legs or your owlet's wing, what are you gonna do? How are you gonna promote your store without seeming like you are that used car dealer in the polyester blazer? Colleen, I'm sure you know how to promote off-site, I guess we would call it.
Yeah, okay. Hi, Jessica. Jessica just joined us. Hello, Jessica. So one of the things I'm a big fan of are doing trade shows, because a trade show is just a couple days, sometimes 1 or 2 days, maybe 3. And you get this like maximum exposure to thousands of people in just a short amount of time. And even if it's not thousands of people, really and truly, you only need to find 1 or 2 or 5 or 10, like set a goal of, we're going to go for those 7 dynamic people that we're going to spotlight this, during this trade show. So trade shows can be about sales. You can set sales goals, but sometimes trade shows are just about the connections and just about the marketing effort. Remember, it's just as important to be adding new names to your database every single day, and a trade show is an awesome place to do that.
And there's all sorts of ways to do that. You can do a drawing for a prize. You can do a contest. You can do a poll. Let's vote. Do you like this outfit or that outfit? Are you mid-century mod or are you classic? Are you early American or are you Louis XIV? Whatever you're doing there, something that will make people stop and participate and sign up for your various email lists, things of that sort. I did a bridal show once, even though I never carried bridal gear, bridal gowns or items in my store. I made people stop at my booth by having a great big picture of a guy with women's clothing falling all over him. Is this what you are sentencing your new husband to? You need to clean out your closets before you get married. That type of thing. I paid for that booth by having bought wholesale bridesmaids jewelry sets, necklaces and earrings, that type of thing, in various colors. So the brides would stop and buy that brightly colored jewelry for their bridal party. They'd see the picture of the guy, being inundated by ladies' lingerie and shoes and handbags, and they'd stop and think about, you're right, I need to clean out my closet before he sees that I've got all his clothes. So think about your audience when you're doing a trade show, and don't discount the theme of a trade show without stopping and thinking about, how is this going to relate to my business? If it's a baby fair and you sell furniture, aren't they going to have to redo a room for the baby? Something of that sort.
Or even promoting the consignment part of it, because you have to make room for a baby. So they're going to need to consign, and maybe you could do a special, like a, half price consignment. You could get people to maybe consign on the spot, like if they happen to have photos of their home and they can pull up photos and show you furniture or their back patio or furniture or their living room, and you could get consignments right on the spot. So there's all kinds of different fun and unique ways to do a trade show. And then pop-up, the little pop-up shops, they're so popular right now. It's kind of like a trade show, but you could do a pop-up shop at a trade show, but you could just do really a pop-up shop anywhere. There's just so many opportunities for pop-up shops. I mean, it's crazy. Do you have comments on the pop-up shop?
Pop-up shops are so much fun. It can be in a church hall. It can be by yourself, or it could be with an allied business. It can be with other consignment shops. It can be with an antique dealer, and you would show your vintage clothing. It can be where you're taking a bunch of items to a nursing home or to an old folks residence or to a community house if you're going into an HOA, and show them some things and talk about not only what to wear, but how to wear it, how to clean out your closets, get the whole shebang in there and get that going. And the basic point of a pop-up shop, just like with a trade show, isn't the money you're going to make right there and then. It's nice to make enough money to cover your expenses for the day, but it's to get people to come into your shop. So never ever neglect to have something to give that person that will motivate them to come in your shop after the pop-up shop, after the trade show, after the fashion show. A brochure of some sort, a coupon of some sort, even just your business card. I cannot tell you how many times people don't have business cards to hand out. I mean, you should have, oh, the witch is leaving the scene. You're back.
I'm back because you posted a video last week, I think it was, where there was a consignment store owner who was being interviewed on TV. Excuse me, my costume's falling off.
She's sitting on her tail feathers.
Okay. And it was really brilliant because the woman on camera held, like, she just had a flyer. It could have been
it was a postcard.
Could have been a postcard for all we know. I mean, who knows what was even on the back of it? Doesn't matter. But the whole freaking interview, she stood there just like this, and she was talking, and she was on air, and she was talking and answering all these questions while her little postcard with the name of her store very clearly written, she could have printed it up just for that specific interview, but it was so brilliant. So I don't know, I might have to, start carrying around my postcards so I can talk to people and they can be like, what are you waving around there? But it was just really brilliant. So if you're on camera or if you're taking a photograph or, I'm just a big fan of having these kinds of little things to hand out anyway. That was just such a pro ninja move when I saw that. And I'm so happy that Kate posted it. It was great. It's on Kate's page if you go look at it. I don't think
you notice that, unless you're really close up, a business card is too small. What Colleen's holding up is something that's probably about 5 by 8, which works really well if you're an author and you want to talk about your new book. But to do it casually like that, is the most intriguing way to do it. You're not interrupting the interviewer. She really doesn't have anything to say about what you're holding in your hand while you're talking. And notice how both in Colleen's picture window and my picture window, you can see something that tells you about what's going on. Very important. And don't forget, too, that so many people watch videos with the sound turned off. So at least if you're doing this, you've got a message here.
So I'm a big fan of this. If you're doing some live videos in your store, why not have a few employees in the background or whatever who just happen to, be waving, getting some fresh air with their brochure of your store.
Another really good tip about being interviewed like that is if you are interviewed in your shop without any prior notice, you should have in your back room somewhere a freshly pressed, ready to slip on crisp shirt of some sort. So that if you're wearing, a pattern that's going to strobe on camera, you've got your white shirt or your blue shirt or your black shirt, or again, whatever suits your branding. And if it has, so much the better if it has embroidery with your shop name on it, or if your shop tag, your name tag, is large enough to be seen on camera. Never, ever, ever, wherever you are, miss a chance to leg that lizard over, to fly that owlet's wing, and use that ingredient in the cauldron to make your shop so much more bewitching. And at that note, I think we should talk about when shall we three meet again?
In thunder, lightning, or in rain, we're here for you in all weather. Or just tune in next Tuesday. Did I mess up our ending?
No, you did perfectly. We rehearse this for 26 seconds before we go on camera. So she's doing pretty good. But every Tuesday, the Kate and Colleen show on Colleen's page, Consignment Marketing, which is where you are now. And every Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern, I do a solo 10-minute quickie over on the Too Good to Be Through Facebook page. So you've got at least twice a week that you can see our smiling faces. So have a happy Halloween. Don't eat all the candy. And have a wonderful day.
Don't eat all the candy.
What's so funny about that? Don't you?
No, I do. In fact, I give out all the candy that I don't like first. And so then there's if there's any left over, it's all my favorite stuff.
I finally persuaded Kenny not to buy raisins to give the kids.
Oh, you're not one of those houses.
No, I'm not. He is. Yeah. So we got York peppermint patties. If you're coming to my house, you get York peppermint patties, but you need to come kind of quick because otherwise I'll eat them all.
Okay, duly noted. So happy Halloween, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.